Today, this is an employability mainly focused session, and we are very proud to have Hanrahan. He's a talent acquisition manager at Enterprise Rent-A-Car, and he will be joining you to have a really focused session on what he'll talk about his background and we'll just check in. He'll talk about his background a little bit, talk about the business that he works for, what it means to work for a company at such a big scale, and then he will talk more focused about the skill set, about the things that we touched upon last week with Kevin. He will then do group work with you. We will move again upstairs, and you will be thinking about some real life issues that a business like his is considering when they're developing their business and working on a daily basis. And in the end, because it's the third session, is the last session for stage 3, I would like to kind of give you a little bit of an overview of what's coming next and kind of discuss what you need to do in terms of completing the stages into undergraduate and if you want to come to our next sessions starting from next week. So the purpose of stage 3 of the Global Talent Program, again, was talking about the global skill set, co-shaping with you the skills that you will need in your chosen career path to successful. There are some transferable skills which we touched upon last week that you can bring with you on every job that you decide to take. It's very important for you to immerse into practice. So children learn through experiential learning, how to do puzzles, how to walk, and everything that they do. We need to put everything in practice in order to be able to learn. We cannot just learn by staying in a lecture. So that's why our sessions are more interactive, but also please do take advantage of everything that is on campus. There are a few leaflets there about the project bank, on other things that you can do on campus. Please take advantage of these things, not only to complete your batch as an optional activity, but also to practice those skills that you think are very important and you're lacking in the future. So yeah, as a second part, again, we will do more experiential learning in global talent activity, discuss this soft, hard, job-specific and transferable skills. And what were some key skills that we came up with the last session? Somebody remembers? Sorry? To be fluid, to be adaptable, yeah? And somebody else, some other skills that are important for a global workplace? Problem solving, analytical thinking, very good. Other ideas? Open-minded, communication with people from different backgrounds, absolutely. Any other ideas? Patience. Patience? Patience, yes. Yes, exactly. Because you cannot quickly jump into subjective thoughts about why this other person is acting in this way. People might be acting in this way because of their culture or their beliefs or many other things. So be patient, but also take your time to act in a proper way. So yeah, so we discussed cross-cultural communication, people skills, very important in absolutely every environment, analytical thinking, digital leadership and identity. We spoke about how important is your online identity, how to make sure that you're actually presentable from an employer point of view. Very important to have your LinkedIn profile. Kevin mentioned it's very important to have a photograph, not with your dog or a glass of wine, but actually really focusing on your branding online, making sure that you are really giving these important messages with your online profile. Adaptable, we discussed that change is the only certainty in our world, so be adaptable, be open-minded. Don't really think this will be the career for my life and I will never change it. Because yes, you might want something, you might be passionate about it, but if it doesn't bring you the success that you are after, maybe you should consider changing paths. So this is an important skill to have. Problem solving. Because of the complex environment that companies and we ourselves are working and living in, it is important to really think about critically about the problems and act as a solution maker. Okay, again, consider from your your point of view, from your chosen career path, what are the most important of these? Is it important for you to be solving problems, to have a digital leadership strategy, to be an analytical thinker? Think about yourself, am I meeting these requirements? Am I meeting these skills? And what are the jobs? What are the things on campus that I can do that will give me some experience so I can actually immerse in those practical activities and actually gain those skills? Again, come and see me if you are having trouble making a decision, and there are also the career advisors. Just a reminder what happened last week. What is the point of developing all these skills if we're not going to be able to sell them at an interview situation? Kevin Huff from PepsiCo, Head of Talent Acquisition from UK and Ireland, came. He's a BU alumnus, and it was a really interesting session where we actually managed to share a lot of his experiences, and he gave us a practical challenge. And it was quite important that he told us things that he, from his recruitment manager perspective, the things that we need to know. But today with Paul, we're going to go deeper, dig deeper and talk a little bit more about skills, and then again have a challenging activity. I just wanted to give you the short video from last session so that you remember. Please give him a clap. I'm sure you will enjoy it.
I'll still you quicker. Yeah, cheers, thank you. Okay. Right, afternoon everybody. Thank you for braving the cold and braving the elements to come and see me this afternoon. It is much appreciated, and yeah, really nice to be in front of a room full of people, so well done for coming along. Before we start, I'm going to have to issue a bit of an apology. I have got a stinking cold. So for the people in the room that are the gentlemen, you'll appreciate just how brave I'm being here with man flu and what a guy I am coming along. I hope that my voice lasts. If you can't hear me at the back and the voice starts going, just move forward. But I'm going to do my best to try and get through the next hour. But I wanted to talk to you about myself, one of my favourite topics. I wanted to talk to you about my career, my second favourite topic, and then give you some hints and tips and some ideas as to what you can do to hopefully embark on your life and your career and the lifestyle and what goes with it. I've got some slides to get through. We've got a bit of a presentation. I'll try to make it interactive. We'll try to have some questions and things like that. If you have any comments as we're going through anything you want to ask in a bit more depth, feel free to shout it out, stick your hand up, whatever it may be. We can always get back on track from there. And at the end of the session, we've actually got a practical exercise for you to do, which is going to practice some of those global skills, the things that all of us as those nasty, horrible, evil graduate recruiters all bang on about in our interviews and assessment centres. So, who am I? Let's see how well. Backwards. Make sure it goes forward. Perfect. Okay, good. So, I am right now Enterprise Rental Cars Talent Acquisition Manager. So, my role in that business is to ultimately come onto campus, identify people like yourselves, bring you into our recruitment process, and then hopefully into a career with us either through placement or through a summer internship, through our graduate program, whatever it may be. Okay? So, I am that gatekeeper. I am the person that says yes or no as to whether you are going to come into our business. And as I said already, I'm that horrible person that says you haven't got the skills that we're looking for, or you haven't developed them far enough from there. But hopefully you'll get some ideas, some practical hints and tips on how to get through some of those areas. Okay? So, let's start with the story. Okay? We're going to go way back in time. Okay? It's 1999. It's a whole millennium ago. Okay? And I graduate. I come out of Southampton Solent University, And these were some of the things that were the big news, some of the things that were going on. So big films at the time, we had Fight Club, we had The Matrix. Britney had just released her debut single. Okay, Robbie Williams was #1 with Millennium. And believe it or not, we were all afraid of the Millennium bug. We thought the world was going to stand still and the computers were going to crash and the earth was going to burn when it all clicked around in 2000. Okay? So this is where we were. So that's the global scheme of things. This is what's going on in the world. But then you get little old me. Okay? That is 21-year-old Paul in the middle. There I am, as a graduate at Southampton Solent University. It shows how long ago it is. That's actually a photo of a proper physical photo. Okay, so we didn't even have digital photos back then. But that's me when I graduate. And I came out of Southampton Solent University with a degree in human resource management. And I came out having a very good idea as to what I didn't want to do, but not such a great idea as to what I wanted to do, if that makes sense. And I realised through my 3 years of studying HR that I'd absolutely had a gutful of it. You know, I didn't want to go into the world of HR. It wasn't the right kind of career path for me. So I thought, what am I going to do? Where do my strengths lie? What am I good at? And so I put up some other things that are up there. Now, my part-time job, when I was at university, I kept it going whilst I was there for the entire 3 years, was at Booker Cash and Carry. Now, that is a giant warehouse, and I live down in Bournemouth, so it's down on the Yeoman's Trade Estate around the back of Castle Point. And it's a giant great warehouse with kind of stock to the ceiling, great big racking. You had to move around pallets of stock and serving customers. I got my forklift driving licence while I was there, and I got up to supervisor and headed up the cash office and those sorts of things. So I had a part-time job, but it allowed me to progress. It gave me some very, very basic skills and paid for me to put fuel in my car and beer in my belly while I was at uni, and kind of kept me going that way. The other thing that I did that I used my spare time with is I played a lot of football. And that is at AFC Bournemouth ground. Believe it or not, you may not think it now, looking at me, fat and old, but I actually used to be quite a reasonable footballer. And I played with a very, very different, eclectic group of people. And again, you learn and develop a lot of skills from your personal interests and from the things that you do outside. And just to give you a bit of an overview, there I am in the middle, and yes, to those of you who are wondering, I have just scored an absolute worldie at Dean Court, but I won't talk to you and bore you with that. But that there is my little brother. And my little brother is the only person in my family, alongside myself, who holds a degree. Okay, so now he actually studied here. Studied at Bournemouth University, did a degree in international marketing and management. He graduated back in 2001. The guy on the end here, Lloyd, he's a brickie. He's a labourer. Okay, he dropped out of school at 15. No qualifications, no formal skills, nothing like that. This guy that you can't quite see all of here, Ross, runs his own business. Okay, he's an entrepreneur. He employs 30 people based out of a company in Wareham. And we've got all sorts of different people and backgrounds and people that I would mix with and mingle with. And we'll come on to why that's important in a minute when we start looking at skills. So there is a reason that picture's up there, other than me just showing off that I actually used to be quite good at footy. Okay? So as I said, I left university in 1999, and I was told by my lecturers, I was told by everybody else, you're going to be all right, you're going to go into work, you're going to find a job, you are great, you've got all of these skills, all of the different things that we look for. And it was so nice when Mira was doing the recap, some of the skills we were shouting out about communication and flexibility and team working, all of those sorts of things. These are all the things that were important back in nearly 20 years ago when I came out of university that are still important today. Okay? And when you look at those, I would dare to say not all of them, or many of them, are actually what you would define as hard skills. Okay? There's nothing on there that says sales, you know, something that is taught, something that you go away and you practice and you develop. They tend to be those softer skills. They tend to be more transferable. They tend to be, and use the evil word that us as graduate recruiters use, employability skills. Okay? And these are all the sort of things that you are going to need to be successful in any business, in any organisation that you join. So whether that be Enterprise Rent-A-Car, whether it be PepsiCo that we spoke to last week, whether it be JP Morgan down the road, down at the Little Down, whatever it may be. But they're all going to want these sorts of skills. They're the sort of things that will help and allow you to be successful within that organisation. Okay? So, as I said, we're going to start with the story. That was kind of my background. They're the skills I felt that I had. I came out of university in 1999, as I said. I wanted one last summer off. I wanted to enjoy myself. At a young age, it kind of dawned on me that, hold on, you're going to be working for the next 40 years, Paul. Enjoy your last summer. Have a bit of time off and recharge batteries. Go on holiday and have some fun. My last summer off turned into 9 months off, and I eventually secured my graduate position with Enterprise Rent-A-Car in May 2000. Okay, so I picked up some extra hours at Booker's, I worked my way through and kind of then moved on from there. And to give you a bit of an overview on Enterprise, kind of who we are and how we do it, anyone heard of us in the room? Anyone know about us as an organisation? Some nodding heads, show of hands. Okay, wow, numbers are getting better. So have you all seen the terrible TV adverts with Brad and Dave, with the American customer service and British car rental and all of those things? Yeah? Okay. So we're actually quite an old company. I'm going to give you a bit of a history lesson. So Jack at the very top founded our organisation back in 1957. Came out of World War II as a successful fighter pilot, and when he was discharged from the US Air Force, was thinking, where am I going to go now? What does my career look like? And he founded Enterprise Rent-A-Car. So started it in a Cadillac dealership in a basement in St. Louis in Missouri with 7 vehicles. Okay, now the good thing with us, as we've progressed and as we've grown, we're still privately owned. Okay, so we're still a privately owned company by the Taylor family. We're now 3rd generation Taylors working for us. For the young ladies in the room, 3rd generation Taylors and the 4th generation Taylors are all female. Okay, so we are a multi-billion-dollar industry-leading company that is headed up by a female and will be for the foreseeable future. And we have all sorts of different business lines. So we started as Enterprise Rent-A-Car. We made an acquisition, bought Alamo and National, so they actually come under our umbrella of organisations as well, and all of the different product lines, different brands that we have across the bottom. So we're starting to grow, we're starting to become quite a large organisation. But we did that from a very, very simple philosophy. And Jack, when he started the company way back in the 50s, came up with this very simple principle. First and foremost, look after your customers, look after your employees. Because in theory, if you do both of those things well, growth and profitability follow. Okay, so very, very simple premise, very simple idea. And when he started to build the company, he then took that further. And he started to put in a framework for us to work by, for us to live by as employees within the organisation. And he came up with our founding values, so the things that actually define us when we're at work. And there's a bit about there about being good operators, you know, about us actually doing well as a business. But a lot of it are the kind of the nicer things around being a business. So doing what's right by our employees, doing what's right in the community, doing what's right with our neighbours, with our customers, those sorts of things. It was great seeing the slide that went up earlier about honesty and integrity, because, lo and behold, at the very top, one of our founding values, personal and honesty and integrity are the foundation of our success. So all of these things are really important to us, really important to Jack as we founded the company. And we've had some success with it. Okay, so 60 years later, we now turn over about $24 billion, employ 100,000 people, we run a couple of million vehicles across the UK and nearly 10,000 locations. And we've now gone from just operating in the US to actually operating in around about 90 countries across the globe. So I dare to say that simple business premise of looking after people, letting the business take care of itself, has kind of worked. You know, we've done quite well with it. Okay, so that's kind of where we've come from. And in terms of our product range, in terms of our brand, our customers can rent any sort of vehicle for any length of time in any sort of environment that they wish to. So whether it be something like a small Vauxhall Corsa by the day or by the week, we could do that in our daily rental branches. If they want a great big semi-articulated refrigerated lorry, we can do that through our Flexi Rent business. We can do that. If they want something a lot nicer, so coming over this side, the Mercedes, the Bentleys, those sorts of things, we can do that through our exotics collection. Okay, so we can cover all of these different things for our customers. And they can rent by the hour, by the day, by the month, by the year. So we can cover all sorts of different bases for them. So we're certainly expanding. We have this one enterprise. We have this one brand that our customers can use. Okay? And we've got some recognition along the way. We do well from a service standpoint with the JD Power Awards and getting nominated for the service we provide in the US. But we also get recognised for our recruitment, for our graduate programmes. And this is what all of these relate to. Okay, so this is one that I put together at the back end of last year, so 2017. So a couple of these are a little bit out of date. But we've been nominated as the Target Jobs Graduate Employer of the Year twice. For those of you that hadn't heard of Enterprise prior to this session, we hire about 1,500 graduates and placement students every single year. There is only one company in the UK that out-hires us from a graduate perspective, and that's Teach First. They're a little way ahead, they do about 2,200, so we've got a way to go to catch up with them. But for those of you that haven't heard about it, we're probably the biggest graduate recruiter that you've never heard of. Okay? So certainly look us up, find out a little bit more about us. And our graduate programs get some good recognition. We do well from a diversity standpoint, so whether it's working with people with disabilities, whether it's being a diversity champion through Stonewall, so working with the LGBT community, or whether it be with women. We've actually got the 2018 branding, came out just within the last month, and we've been nominated in the Times Top 50 for where women want to work for the last 12 years. And the actual listing has only been running 12 years. So we've been in it every single year. So that sort of thing, just some of the little awards that we're getting for our graduate programme and a placement opportunity. Okay? Now, our grad programme, this is kind of my sell. I wouldn't be doing my talent acquisition job if I wasn't given a little bit of a sell, and I'll keep it as quick as I can. But our graduate programme, we bring people in at entry level, and we train you to be a manager with us. Okay? So we're going to teach you to run one of our business units. And operationally, that's customer service, it's sales, it's working within that sort of retail and service industry. But behind the scenes, you're learning how that business unit runs. So you're looking at the numbers side, what you can do to impact them. You're looking at the people side, what you can do to train, develop, to coach, to get the best out of a team. You're looking at the marketing and account management piece, how you go to the marketplace and grow the business and build relationships. So it's a very varied role, it's very fast-paced, and it's all about progression into management from there. And we will take any university background, okay? It doesn't matter whether you've done a business studies degree or whether you've done an arts degree. My predecessor in talent acquisition, she did a dance major at Lancaster. Okay, so no correlation there. What matters is the skills, the work experience, the things that you're bringing to the table alongside your studies. And we'll go into some of that in a little while. And ultimately, as I said, we are going to progress you to run one of our businesses, and you will get that based on your merit, based on your performance. Nothing else, okay? So it's all about progression, it's all about getting to that next level. And our career path is nice and varied. So everyone starts here at the management trainee level, so whether that's on a one-year placement or whether it's on our graduate programme. You work your way through, we ignore management assistants, it's just a stepping stone position, it means you've had one promotion. You then get to assistant manager. And this is then when you've got some responsibility for running the branch, for organising the team, organising the day and that sort of thing. From there, you get to branch manager level, and then it opens up all of the doors as well, so all of the support functions. So whether you fancy a career in HR, a career in accounts, a career in the national sales team, whatever it may be, but get yourself to that branch manager level, and it opens all of the doors from there. Now, our quickest progression route is the very linear one. So starting here, working through the line, branch manager, area manager, regional manager, general manager, vice president, married to the owner's daughter, whatever it may be. But that's the career path, okay? It goes on and on and on and on. And that's kind of where we want people to get to. So when people are joining our business, when people are joining our organisation, we want people to have that longer term view. We don't want you to just come to us for a job. We want you to be already starting to think about a career. Where can you be in 3 years? Where can you be in 5 years? What's important to you? What's driving you forward? Okay? And in terms of what we look for, these are kind of some of our core competencies. So these are the skills that we need you to bring to the table. These are your personality traits. And hopefully you'll realise that as you've gone through your university lives, a lot of these are things that you're going to pick up from all sorts of different areas, different things that you've done, different parts of your life and that kind of thing. And we'll come into those in a bit more depth in a moment. But I would dare to say there's nothing there that is a particular technical skill. There's nothing there that needs to be particularly taught in a specific way. It's a lot of things that we feel we can train, that we can develop, and that we can coach on. Okay? So, our application process. It's long. Okay, there's a lot of stages to it, but not all of them necessarily involve you being assessed. We start with an online application, we then do an aptitude questionnaire around that, we then move into myself actually screening that application, deciding yes or no whether to pick the phone up, into a telephone screen which takes about 10 minutes. Assuming you're successful at that, we then bring you in for a face-to-face interview with me, we then start to look at some of your competencies, some of your skills, we then get you to visit one of our branches, actually go and see the work environment, get a feel for the company culture, get to see the role in action, the team you're going to work with, seeing if it's the right sort of thing for you. And then we wrap up with an assessment centre. Okay, that's it for the assessment piece. From there, I'm then still managing the process, so through job offer, through the references, through your new hire orientation, getting you embedded and brought into the company. But as a recruiter, as a talent acquisition manager, my job doesn't stop when you actually walk through the door and you start your first day. I'm actually still responsible for you for the first 90 days of your career. Okay, so up to that point, I will be your mentor. I'll be the person that you'll come to, or myself or my colleague who does TA will be the people that you come to that will help you out through those initial stages. So for us, we take that recruitment process and the onboarding process very, very seriously, and lots of stages that we get through. And I'm going to give you some hints and tips on how to survive some of these in a minute. Okay? So, an application form. What sort of things I'm looking for on it? Minimum qualifying criteria, your education, your previous employment, your interests, your hobbies, other skills that you may have. Naturally, I'm assessing your accuracy, I'm assessing your attention to detail, and the level of detail that you actually write out on that application form. Okay? So, I'll give you some hints and tips. An application form, or a CV, whatever it may be, is your very first and could be your only opportunity to secure a seat at the interview table and to actually sell yourself. Okay? So keep that in mind. It's your only opportunity. So, with that in mind, when I'm screening an application form, when I'm screening a CV, how long do you think it takes me to make a decision on your suitability as to whether I want to pick the phone up and make a call? Less than 30 seconds. You nailed it first time. So yeah, about 30 seconds. Okay? So I don't know how that makes you feel in the room. For me, when I'm applying for jobs, it makes me feel a little uncomfortable. But someone is making the decision on whether they want to speak to you or not inside 30 seconds. Okay? Based purely on the information that you put on that application form or that you put on that CV. So it's really important that CV really helps to sell you, and it really helps to kind of get who you are across to that potential employer. And the way to do that is to kind of look at some of the points that we've got on here. So first of all, tailor it to the specific company, to a role, to the competency that they're assessing. And your CV should very much be a fluid document. It should be something that's always working, it's always changing, it's always being modified and updated and moved around. It should never ever be a static document. And you could put your CV together in one format, send it out to 20 organisations, within 2 weeks get 20 no's back. And that's if you're lucky if you get a response. 10 probably just won't even respond to you. But you know, you send it out, you get no interviews. You could move some things around, change the wording slightly, put things in different places, send it out to 10 more, you get called for 6 interviews. It's one of those things. In the UK, there isn't a set format. There's not a hard and fast way that CVs have to look. So it's down to trial and error. It's down to you to work out how and where you present that information that we look for. But try to tailor it to the company. So, you know, try to be clever in terms of the job that you're applying for. Think about the wording that you use. If you can find the skill set that the organisation are looking for, so I gave you what our core competencies were earlier, you can find those on any recruiter's website, whether it's us or JP Morgan or IBM, whoever it may be. Get on their website, use the language they use the skills they use, the wording they use, make sure that is reflected in your application or your CV. Because when we're screening it as a graduate recruiter, we're looking for those keywords to jump out. And if I see the words customer service, brilliant, check, done. If I see the words leadership, check, done. So use the language that we would use. Use the words that the recruiter would use. Because that will really help you to kind of get sold when that person's reading it. Now, if you're going to do that, make sure you check it, okay? Make sure that you do your spell checks. Make sure that you check all the things you've put in there. Because I've received application forms previously that said, I would love to work for IBM because. Which, brilliant, well done. You're tailoring it to the company, but you're just cutting and pasting. You're sending it off to every organisation, every person, and you forgot to check it and say, oh, actually, I'm applying to Enterprise Rent-A-Car. So make sure that you're taking your time to check it. Have somebody else read your CV. Have somebody else read your application form. It's amazing how easily you go word blind when you've read the same document over and over and over again. And as soon as somebody else reads it, they spot a typo like a sore thumb. It sticks out for miles. So have somebody else read it, mum, dad, housemate, partner, whatever it may be. Try to include as much detail as possible. Try to make sure that it really helps to sell you. Think about the wording, be professional. Think about how you would want the CV to look if it dropped on your desk. Okay? Any questions on CVs or application forms? Yep. Yeah, good point. So I said we hire about 1,500 graduates a year. We will process probably around about 21,000 applications. So yeah, hiring is at 1 in 20. Give or take. So do with that number what you will. So you need to find a way to stand out. So it is still a competitive market out there, is what I will say. One of the things I will say that will reassure you, where are you at in terms of your studies? Are you final years, second years? So, okay, fine. So for all of you that are coming out in, a year, 18 months, 2 years down the line, I think the graduate marketplace is going to be really, really buoyant. We're certainly seeing over the last 3 or 4 years a lot of shoots of growth. A lot of big graduate recruiters are coming back to the marketplace, back to the table with jobs that they perhaps haven't offered for the last 4 or 5 years. So, that graduate recruitment, that graduate marketplace is really growing, it's really booming. So I think that the good people when you come out of university are going to get hired. That's very much the case. It's just down to you to make sure that you sell yourself when you do come out. But yeah, around 1 in 20 is what we hire in terms of our application. Okay, so any other questions on CVs before we move on to phone interviews? Nope. Okay, good. So phone interviews, phone screens. In terms of what I'm assessing, in terms of what I'm looking at, checking the basic criteria. So are you eligible to do the job? You know, for example, do you need a work permit? Have you got visas approved? Those sorts of things. Checking simple things like your punctuality. Are you on time for the call? If you've got decent sort of charge in your phone, all of those sorts of things. And then just looking for some very basic things. First of all, have you researched the company? What do you know about us? What do you know about the business, about the role, whatever it may be? And what I want you to do is just hold a conversation with me for 10 minutes that gets across your interest, your enthusiasm, your passion, your career direction, where it is that you want to go, and just talk to me and hold me in that conversation about what you've done at work, what you've done at university, what you've done outside, all of the things that have made you who you are and given you the skills that you possess. Obviously, I want you to ask me some questions, so I want you to try and find out a little bit more about the business, about the role and that kind of thing. And ultimately, I'm assessing your communication skills. Okay, I'm looking to see, can you have that conversation? Could I put you on the phone to one of my business partners, to one of my customers, whatever it may be? So it's a really, really useful tool. And I know as we're going through and as times are changing, a lot of companies now are using video interviewing as well. So you have to pre-record and give your answers to questions. Same principle to the telephone interview, I think, in terms of how you deliver that information and how you present it. So with this, think telephone, think video, whatever you will. But it's basically a screening tool. Now, who here has had a telephone interview? Who's done one? How'd it go? What did you think of it? Enjoy it? Easy? Yeah, some people nodding heads. Personally, I'm not a fan. I don't enjoy them. I rely a lot on body language. I rely a lot on facial expressions and humour and things like that. So as a recruiter using phone screens, I'm not a fan. I'd rather have somebody in front of me and actually gauge their reaction and speak to them that way. But I'm going to give you some hints and tips on how to survive them. So first and foremost, seems an obvious one. When your phone rings, answer it. Okay? Make sure that it's charged up. Make sure that you've got decent signal, even if that means you need to go to the top of the hill at the end of the road. Okay? But make sure you're in a position where you can answer that call, you can take that call, and you can make sure that you can get through it without any interruptions, that you can make sure that the phone isn't going to cut off and kind of cut you off mid-flow and things like that. Because for me, there's nothing worse when I'm in a deep conversation with somebody, I'm really getting to the point of their skills, and then you get the, please hang up. It's like, oh, no, really? And you have to call them back, and then it goes to voicemail because they're trying to call you, and then it takes longer than it needs to, and it's an absolute nightmare. So make sure your phone's charged. Make sure you're in a decent area where you can get your reception. One of the things I didn't mention on the last slide, I had the word voicemail on there. Okay, and this applies to email as well. If you've got one of those outgoing voicemail messages that you think is funny, that might be funny to your friends, or an email address, you know, it's a little bit racy, a little bit naughty, or whatever it may be, do away with it. Okay, ditch it. Create a professional email address, create a professional outgoing voicemail message for your mobile. Because what's funny to you may not be funny to that person ringing up when they're looking to book an interview with you. Okay? Doesn't mean that we don't have a sense of humour, but we're already starting to assess your professionalism. We're already starting to think about how you present yourself. It comes all the way back to that first impression with your CV. It's that only opportunity to sell yourself. How would you feel if you knew that you didn't get an interview because of the outgoing voicemail message that was on your phone? Okay? So make sure that it's professional, make sure that it presents you in the right sort of light. And I thought it was great with the slides that Mira had up earlier in terms of your social profile and all of the things that's online. Make sure you're going through cleaning out what you can, where you can, because believe it or not, recruiters are looking. Okay, so make sure that's all saying the right thing about you. Come on in, more the merrier. In terms of the answers, take your time on the phone. Don't be afraid for a bit of silence. On a telephone call, 10 seconds of silence feels like an eternity. As an HR professional, it is a very, very powerful tool. We use the term state and wait, okay? And I am quite happy to let there be silence on the telephone because it really, really gets uncomfortable. And sometimes people just break that silence for the sake of it and talk. But don't be afraid to think your answers through. Don't be afraid to use a little bit of silence, to take your time, to make sure that you get the right answer, the right example across the way that you want to. In terms of how you present that answer, be engaging, okay? Be confident, okay? Be proud of what you've achieved. Really present back everything that you've done so far. because that's what we want to see. That's the sort of person that we want to hire, that we want to hear from. Now, an interesting thing is I put wear a suit. Okay? Why have I put wear a suit for a telephone interview? Go on.
Because it puts you in a certain mood.
Mm-hmm. It does, yeah. It puts you in that working mind frame. It puts you in that right sort of mood. It makes you feel that you want to perform. It makes you feel that you're in an interview. Let me tell you a stat. If you were to wear a suit for a telephone interview, you are 75% more likely to pass it. Okay? So it does that big a difference in terms of how you present yourself and how you perform. Now, I'm not saying that people can't do an amazing job in their pyjamas in their bedroom doing a telephone interview, but I'm also telling you that when you do put a suit on, a lot of people do tend to outperform others and do well with that. But go to your quiet place, go where you're not going to get distracted, go where you're not going to get disturbed, where people aren't going to come in and interrupt the call, and make sure that you've done your research on the company. Make sure that you're ready for the sort of things that they're going to ask you. Because you can find, as I said, the skills, the areas that we're going to look at splashed all over our websites. Okay? Any questions on the phone? Yeah?
As per email addresses, do you prefer the university emails or is the Gmail okay? Because some people told me that they prefer university.
Yeah, the problem with the university emails, what I will say, is some of them have got quite strict filters on them. And you will actually put an application form through to an organisation that uses an applicant tracking system, whatever it may be. We use a system called iSIMS. Now, when we send a message out saying, we've had your application form, we'd like to contact you for a telephone interview, that goes into your spam filters, it gets blocked and goes in your junk folder, and then I'll ring you in 2 weeks' time saying, I emailed you a fortnight ago, you never called me back. Do you still want a telephone interview or not? So if you're going to use your university one, make sure you play around with your spam filters, make sure you change the settings that those emails can get through. What I would recommend is that you set up a specific email account, a specific email address purely for job hunting. You know, and do it as a Gmail one, a Google Mail, or as a Hotmail, whatever you want to use, whatever your preference may be. But set up a specific email address just for your job applications. And again, then make sure that your filters are correct and your spam settings are good on it. But yeah, good question, well done. Yep.
I have 2 questions. First one is...
Oh, that's just greedy.
Going through the phone interview, for instance, you get 2 applicants. One has a lot of skill, a lot of work experience, but when you call them, they just don't seem as enthused. Or, you know, they know about the company but haven't done the research. Then you have another one that's just fresh out of college, has no work experience, but they answer, you know, very enthusiastically. They did some research. Who are you more likely to hire?
If I was honest with you, both. So what I tend to do, I'm a little bit old-fashioned actually in terms of how I do it and how I screen applications. I like to look for reasons to hire people rather than reasons to reject people. So what I would actually do is want to pick the phone up and speak to both. And if somebody wasn't performing, I would say, oh, this person looks great on paper, but why aren't they presenting it to me? I would then weigh up sort of what the challenges were. You know, have I noticed in their voice and tone that maybe they were nervous or maybe they were struggling, were they distracted, I don't know. And then I would take that into account. I would potentially say, well, you know what, let's bring them in for a face-to-face, see if they're any different. It could be that they just aren't very good communicators. You know, and that unfortunately is one of the skills that every organisation looks for. So it would be that if it became too much of a barrier, that I would reject. For me, what I will say with our graduate programme, and I think most graduate programmes out there isn't too much that can't be taught. Okay, so as long as someone is engaging, is passionate, is able to speak and hold a conversation, wants to learn, you know, is resilient and is driven and ambitious, I can train anything else. You know, I can teach somebody to sell, I can teach them to read a profit and loss statement, but I can't teach the value of hard work. I can't teach the value of resilience. I can't teach drive and ambition, that sort of thing. So if I had to do the split, I would go on the person that was engaging rather than the person that's got it all on paper but can't present it, if I was forced to do both. So that's question 1.
Yes. The other question is, at least for me, I don't answer a lot of international phone calls, even though I do apply for international jobs. And typically, you know, an HR manager would send an email saying, hey, I'm going to call during this time. I've received a call from Australia. I didn't answer it, and then I realized 2 days later that it was from the company that I applied for. I emailed them, and they're like, well, you didn't answer my call. I mean, how should I approach that?
Had they scheduled that call with you? No. You see, and that's the difference. So for me, I say that's bad on them. That's bad form on them. So when I'm booking in a telephone interview, when I'm booking an interview, I will give advance warning. So I'll either send an email saying, look, when can you do? These are the dates and times that I've got available. Which one works for you? And I will call at that time. Now, if I've agreed that I'm going to call you at 10 o'clock on Thursday morning, better bloody answer the phone at 10 o'clock on Thursday morning. But, we don't look to catch people out in the hop and say, right, we're going to go through a phone interview now. Some organisations do. And I would think that if they're calling unannounced and they're going to try and put you on the spot, I at least would hope they give you another opportunity. But what I would say is if you know that you're applying for international jobs and you get an international call, you might not answer it. That's just what I would think. So, it's how long's a piece of string about. There isn't a right or wrong answer, but knowing that you have got these international roles out, I would expect you to answer your phone. And even if you can't go through the phone interview there and then, say, look, you know what, now isn't a good time. I'm stood in the middle of Asda's. But, can you call me back at this time, or can I call you back at another time? And don't be afraid to engage in a conversation with them. Any other questions on the phone before we move on? Okay. Need to pick up the pace. So, okay. Interviews and assessment days. Going to touch on the kind of the face-to-face interaction now. So, again, a lot of this is similar to the telephone in terms of looking at your punctuality, your timekeeping, looking at the competencies, the skills, the questions you ask, how you communicate. But there's a couple of things in here that are really, really quite important to us. And it's that appearance, that first impression, that visual representation of your brand as to who you are when you walk in, okay? So looking back at some psychological studies and things like that, how much of an interview is based purely on that first impression? Based purely on the minute you walk through the door and someone shakes your hand? At least 50%, yeah? Any advances? Not quite that high. So it's about 55 to 60%. Of any interview, of any interaction, is based purely on that first impression, that first point of contact. Now, for me, one of my biggest flaws, I'd say as a person, as an interviewer, I make snap decisions like that. Okay, it's always been one of my things. I like to think I'm a good judge of character, I'm a good judge of person, and I make very, very quick decisions on people. And I've really, really had to work hard to train myself, to coach myself, to develop myself, not to do that when I'm interviewing somebody. To actually think, no. Let's remember what you were like when you were 21, Paul. You were nervous going into that. It would have taken you a bit of time to get warmed up, and maybe you weren't quite so comfortable in a group environment like you are now. So I really, really try to think how I would behave in that and try to give people a chance to warm up and to get into that interview. But I'm making very quick decisions. So as someone who is trained in interviewing, who is trained to know about their biases, their stereotypes, and all of those kind of things, I'm already making up over half of my mind as to whether you're going to be successful in that interview or not, on just how you present yourself when you walk through the door. Now, as I said, I hire, out of that 1,500 people, I hire about 150 people a year. And to do that, I probably do about 2,000 applications, maybe about 1,500 interviews or thereabouts. My hiring managers will maybe do 20 interviews. So if my kind of percentage is 55, 60%, where's my hiring manager's percentage? Are they up here somewhere? They're 70, 80%. So really think about that first impression. Think about how you present yourself when you arrive at the organisation. And what I will say as a rule of thumb is if you have any doubt over the dress code, any doubt on how to present yourself, always err on the side of caution and overdress. Okay? It's better to go in and look absolutely amazing and be told, wow, you look great, but you've certainly put way too much effort in for this interview, but well done, than it is to think, why is that person not wearing a tie? Why have they come in their jeans? That sort of thing. So really, sort of, if you can't find out, if you don't know who to ask, err on the side of caution, wear your suit, make sure it's well presented, make sure it's well pressed, and you look great. That's the key to that. So, in terms of tips, dress accordingly. If you're unsure of that dress code, ask it. Think about your body language. Think about the kind of the non-verbal signs that you're giving away. I know that I have a lot when I present. You've probably noticed I move around a lot. I'm a fidget. Okay, I'm one of those people, I wave my hands. I'm trying to emphasise my points. I'm an absolute nightmare. That's why I don't present with a glass of water, because I'd be spraying it everywhere, or with a piece of paper, because it'd be rattling and shaking and going like that. But I know that I use my hands a lot. I know that I use my body a lot to really emphasise my points. Now, I'm hoping that I can use that as an advantage, because what it gets across is my passion. It gets across my enthusiasm. It allows me to really elaborate the point that I'm making. So I try to use it as an advantage. But some people have all sorts of nervous tics. Anyone here a pen clicker? Yeah, I heard some pens clicking over here just now. That is an absolute nightmare in a group discussion in an assessment centre, because all of a sudden you stop listening to everything that's being said in the group discussion, and all you can hear is click, 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 click. It's like, just take the pen away from them. I want to listen to what's being said. But everybody's got something. Everyone's got a little nervous tick. Everyone's got a little giveaway as to when they're out of their comfort zone. Some people are ring spinners. They'll sit there, they'll spin the ring around on their finger, play with chain, play with hair, foot tappers, knee bouncing up and down, going all like that the whole time. Everybody's got something. But if you kind of sat when you're in your chair, when you're interviewing, when you're being assessed, hands in your lap, upright, thinking about your body language, once your hands are below the eye line, nobody can see what they're doing. Okay, you can do whatever you want down there, nobody can see them. So just think about your body language, think about what's going on, think about the things that are being kind of given away about you. Anyone heard of the STAR technique? Yeah, you all done some careers and employability skills shops and things, you know STAR? Anyone care to elaborate what the STAR stands for? Situation, task, action, results. Bang on. Good, well done. Okay, so as interviewers, as graduate recruiters, when we ask a competency-based question and we want you to answer that question, we want you to fill out the STAR. So tell us where you were, what you were doing, what was asked of you, the action that you took, what the outcome was. And if you structure every interview question like that, we shouldn't need to dig in too much deeper. We shouldn't need to then kind of ask follow-up questions or dig in. So give detail, detail, detail. Really tell a story. Really paint that vivid picture. Okay? Rest of it we've kind of spoken about there. Spoken about being passionate, language you're using, questions, all of those kind of things. Last but not least, assessment centres. The big thing for me for assessment centres are these 2 bullet points. Working with others and culture. Okay? And assessment centres are brilliant for seeing team dynamics, brilliant for seeing how people work within sort of groups of others, but also how they're going to fit within that organisation. Because whether you like it or not, when you join a job, when you join a company and a career, you're going to do a lot. You're going to be at work for hours and hours and hours. And when you are, it's important that you're able to get on with the people that you work with. It's important that you're going to like the culture, the environment that you're working in. So really make sure that you kind of use those assessment centres to assess your cultural fit within that organisation. And with that, we'll kind of do the assessment side of things, making sure that you still give a good idea of your skill set, but really try to be yourself. Think about what we're watching, think about what we're seeing, but be yourself at your best, okay? The way that I think of an assessment centre is treat it like your nan's 80th birthday party, okay? So you want to go along, you want to have a good time, you want to enjoy yourself, you want to let your hair down, but you don't want to be the person that's being sick in the corner because your nan's watching. Okay, and that's how I think about an assessment centre. Okay, have some fun, enjoy it, be yourself, let your personality come out, let us see your personal characteristics, but remember that we're watching everything. Okay, and that's kind of the key to that. So that is it on assessment centres interviews. Yes, in the middle. Yep.
Do you hire just like European or UK students or like international? Because we have like work limits
Yeah.
and our limits.
Yeah, absolutely. So sadly, with Enterprise, we're not an organisation that will allow sponsorship or for the Tier 4 visa. So you would need to have right to remain, right to work within the UK. Any other questions on that? Yep.
So you said that in the assessment centre you watch everyone.
Yeah.
Have you ever hired the wrong person based on something you've seen and then realised?
We've not hired the wrong person, but we've rejected somebody based on something that we saw and heard. So great question. So we did an assessment centre once, and we had a gentleman on it who did a really good job on all of the exercises. We got through to lunch, and we'd done the first 3 practical exercises. He nailed the group discussion, done a great job in a couple of role plays, done a really nice job in the practical sort of intro exercise that we do. And we got to lunch, and we're quite a friendly bunch. My assessors tend to be quite informal, we tend to be quite relaxed. We certainly don't make it a harrowing assessment centre. And he relaxed too much. And over lunch, he started saying some things and making some comments that were pretty derogatory towards women. And we kind of picked up on it as a group of assessors and kind of got to us, and we discussed it afterwards and we debriefed it. It was like, we know this guy could absolutely do the job, hands down. He would be fine in terms of doing the practical side of the job. But if he's saying things and making these comments in an environment when he knows he's being watched and he's being assessed, what's he going to be like when I put him in one of my branches or when I put him in an environment where we're not there to keep an eye on him? So we actually made the decision not to job offer. And I can tell you now, I give verbal feedback after all assessment centres. I don't hide behind an email. I'll pick the phone up and tell people whether they've been successful or unsuccessful. That is one of the most uncomfortable conversations I've had to have. It's with him explaining why he didn't get the job and going through sort of the comments that he made. So, yeah, so absolutely. On that assessment centre, do we make decisions based on some things that aren't necessarily assessed criteria? Yeah, absolutely we will. Yeah. Comes down to that cultural fit again. Yep.
Do you look at the person's social media?
Personally, no. And as a company, we made a stance, probably 10 years ago now, not to use Facebook, not to kind of research on an individual or anything like that. Naturally, I'll use LinkedIn. You know, I like people to link with me, particularly through the university events and networks that we do and that sort of thing. So yeah, that is your professional jargon one, but we won't go and look at your Facebook profile. But what I will say is just because we deliver that message to our hiring managers and we tell them not to, when I send them through a branch interview and they've got someone coming in, do you think they look up your name? Yeah, they do. They're rascals. Okay, so you just need to be mindful. So yeah, think about your digital profile. Think about what's out there on you. So, good. Okay, so last few things I want to go through before we get onto the practical exercise. Anybody know who that is? You'll hammer up?
Yeah.
Who is it?
Cats.
Who?
They're cats.
No.
Oh.
Okay, so it's Ian Dowie is who it is. Okay, used to be a footballer, and believe it or not, looking at that picture, he genuinely has a master's in aeronautical engineering. Okay, and back in 2005, Ian Dowie was on the Soccer Saturday panel shows on a Saturday afternoon on Sky, and he coined the word bounce back ability. Okay, and what it was a word that he used to describe resilience, that ability to pick yourself up, to dust yourself off, to go again. So when you've taken a proper hiding, to bounce back from it. Okay. Now, that word actually entered the Oxford English Dictionary in 2005, okay? So but there's a reason I've got that up there. Because there are some very, very modern words. There's some terms and some words that are used to describe certain things that are important to us as employers. And the big one I've mentioned already is employability, okay? So, no, quick. Did anyone see the answer? Okay, so, employability is a word, as a term. It is not a new word. It is not a new concept. So I've ruined my question and answer section. So employability as a word isn't something that us as graduate recruiters have come up with within the last 10, 15 years, off the back of the last recession, to find a way to reject all of you as suitable candidates. It is actually a very, very old word. It's been around since the late 17th century. Okay? And all it means is the ability to, I'll go backwards, to not just get a job, but to keep that job and to do well. It is, okay? It is simply the ability to be employed. That's what employability is, okay? So it isn't something that needs this kind of degree to decode it, this degree to understand it. It is just purely the skills that you need to be able to do a job and do it well, okay? And it's not a new concept, as I said. And you've touched on it already. All sorts of different sort of things can be done. I could have put all sorts of different infographics up around employability skills, the things that are important, but you know, they all came out decision-making, problem-solving, team-working, communication, all of those sorts of things that are important to us. So what makes a good candidate? And where do you get those skills? And you can get them from everywhere and anywhere. Whether that be your working life, your university, your interests, your hobbies, whatever it may be. These skills come from all over the different places, and they will develop, and they will change, and they will expand as you grow and expand as a person. Okay? And I said to you right at the very start, when I came out of university, thinking, I'm great. These are the skills I think I have. These are the skills now that I know that I have. Okay? These are the things that I've developed throughout my life, throughout the last 20 years in my career and beyond that. But not all of these have come from university, not all of these have come from my working life. I would say my team working and my leadership has very much come from my sporting background. I've captained sides from a young age, I've managed sides. I know how to motivate people. I know the people that need to be given a good old-fashioned rocket in the middle of the park and a kick up the backside. I also know the people that need an arm around them and need a bit of a softer approach and you know, actually give them a little bit of encouragement. So a lot of my leadership, my team working has come from my sporting background. My work ethic, this one up here, came from my very first job at Booker's. And as I said, I worked in a big warehouse, and one of the things I did for about 9 months is I worked on the freezer department. And anyone that's worked in a supermarket or worked in the cold section of a supermarket will know just how bad those walk-in freezers are. They're about minus 20 degrees. And if you're lugging around boxes full of frozen chips in minus 20, I can assure you, you develop a work ethic. Okay, it will keep you going, it will keep you moving. And for me, that stayed with me. Even to this day, I was at our pool branch this morning, I did an interview, and the branch was busy, and there were customers that were kind of waiting for their vehicles. And there was one of them needed a van cleaning. So I was there, in minus 2 degrees, cleaning a van for the branch, helping them out, because I've always had that work ethic. It's something that's always stayed with me. I'm prepared to get my hands dirty when I need to. Other things like prioritising, my organisational skills come from university. How do you balance deadlines? How do you balance your workload? Communication is something I've developed as I've kind of gone through life. So I'd say that's probably from my enterprise career and the sort of role that I'm in now. You know, I like to think I'm a reasonably good communicator. I like to think I'm able to get my message across in the right kind of way. So all of these skills come from different areas. And as you go through, you will learn and you will take different things from all sorts of different parts of your life. Has anybody here got a CV or ever put an application form together where they've left a job off? You just think it's not relevant, I won't put it on there. Yeah? What job was it? Why? Cost cutter.
Yeah.
Okay.
Because I don't have enough space.
Yeah. Okay. Fine, so you've got evidence of that skill elsewhere. So you don't necessarily need to put that. Okay, fine, no problems. Glad you don't have your hands up.
Yeah, well, it was just thinking it wasn't like it wasn't actually something that the company could use, I guess.
Okay.
Like I didn't feel it was something that they thought, oh, she's done it, but it has nothing to do with us, like nothing to do with our, our business or.
But did you take anything from it? Did you develop any skills from that job? Is there anything that you still use now, either as a soft or a hard skill, that was developed in that job that doesn't show up anywhere else in your CV?
I don't think so.
No, fine, so good. So what I would say is think about the skills, think about the jobs that you've done. For me, I like to see all jobs that people have done on their application on their CV, because I like to go back and see what they've done in the past to see if they have ever done that really grotty job that you think, oh yeah, fair play to them, they've worked at McDonald's, I bet they've cleaned out some kitchen ovens or had to do something grotty with the toilets and things like that. That shows that work ethic, it shows that sort of resilience piece. So think about the jobs, think about the skills you can take from them, and use them to really sell anything that doesn't appear elsewhere on the CV or your application form. Okay, that is about it for the presentation.